Are you struggling to stay calm when it matters? Do you try and hold it together but still lose it anyway? Are you tired of starting methods to stay calm but never staying consistent? Then stick around, because in this video we're going to break down why staying calm feels like a fight you can't win, why most advice doesn't actually work, and one thing that can genuinely help without costing you extra time or money. Now, one of the most misunderstood things about trying to stay calm, or in fact losing your temper, is you never mean to. You never go into the day thinking, right, today I'm going to lose my temper with your man over there because they've had it coming to them. Nobody wakes up and thinks that in the morning. You go into the day thinking, right, today I'm going to do better than yesterday. We're going to build on either a really good day or we're going to improve on a really bad day. And you go into it with the best hope and intentions, right? And sometimes you back yourself to do it. Sometimes you just hang it in there, depending on your season of life. But usually you're already trying. Usually you're already trying to stay calm. And the thing is, there's a lot of pressure in doing that because you're trying to stay calm. You're trying to be patient. You're trying to make sure that you're presenting the best version of the person you want to be. That's the thing. You're trying to live each day as the person you're trying to become now, while you're not that person yet. That's why it's hurtful, right? And the problem is then when things do go wrong and you don't react the way you wanted to. You might have lost your temper, you might have just snapped. It might have even been your tone of voice. But you think to yourself, like, why am I like this? Or a better one is, why do small things set me off? Right? Or if you're struggling in this season of life, you might be thinking things like, why can't I just stay calm? And those are really hard because you recognize your failings, but you don't necessarily recognize what led you to them. Because once you've had one bad reaction, you replay it, you turn it over in your head. I know I did, and I still do, to be honest. And the problem is, once you have reacted, you end up blaming yourself. You know, you look at it and you think, I could have done better. I should have been better than that. I knew better. I should have been better, and I wasn't. And the problem is, they're facts. That's the problem, is there's logic in what you're saying. Like, if you're an adult, yes, you know better than to react badly to something. You know not to lose your temper. You know to have the good tone of voice around people, and like, that's all true. It's all steeped in fact, which makes this hard because you've got logic and reasoning plus the emotional toll and the guilt of what you've done and how you reacted, and they work together. And when they're working together, it makes it inescapable to somebody who hasn't seen this properly yet. Because you're like, there's no good argument out of this. And the problem is, the more you react, the worse that gets. And, it gets to a point where you don't just react once. You relive it afterwards. And reliving it afterwards is painful because it's like being stuck in that reaction long after it's finished. Could be hours, could be the next day. Everyone else has moved on and you're still sat with it. Now, most people think their reactions happen because they're angry. I don't think that's actually true. I think reactions happen because pressure builds quietly. And when pressure builds quietly long enough, eventually something small becomes the release point. That's why reactions often feel sudden, like they've come out of nowhere. Not because you're a bad person, but because you were carrying too much in that moment. Because the pressure underneath has been building for longer than you realised in a lot of cases. For a lot of us, it's like, for me personally, working parent, right? It's getting the kids ready for school in the morning, it's taking them to school, it's trying to manage the work side of it, it's trying to make sure that like everything's done in the house before I leave. And that's a lot of things to be like spinning plates at the same time, right? There's a lot of things going on at once. And if one or two of those things goes badly, it affects everything else downstream, like all the other stuff you were trying to get done. And all of that has an effect on you. That's pressure accumulation in real time. That's building up a pressure in real time. And the problem is then when you react and you judge yourself for it afterwards, you don't actually recover. You don't gain anything out of it. There's no clarity. There's no plan to stop it happening next time. You just feel worse, even though you had a perfectly human, understandable moment. I'm not saying like let yourself off the hook and don't, blame yourself for it. Accountability is fine. But one-sided blame doesn't help. Because when you carry it, when you replay it, you punish yourself for it. And that means that the next reaction you have is sooner, it's closer to you than it would have been. Because you're judging yourself, you've got all of this pressure we talked about a minute ago, and then every time you react and you blame yourself for it, you're adding more and more and more onto that. If you try to carry 10 kilograms for as long as you can, we have to put it down again, you will get so far. But every time you add another kilogram on, the distance you can carry that for gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So every time you blame yourself and you add more pressure on, the distance between your reactions, the time it takes, or the things that set them off, the things that set them off become smaller and smaller, and they're like tiny little things that you wouldn't normally react to, and they're setting you off. Or it's like you don't go a full day anymore. Maybe you don't go the whole afternoon. Maybe it's not even an hour. And you're reacting again and again and again, and then you're blaming yourself more and more and more and more, and it builds up, and it doesn't do you any good. You're not becoming worse. You're becoming more compressed. Now let me ask you a question. If a police officer, this is going to sound very random, but just go with me. If a police officer was the victim of a crime, would that police officer be allowed to investigate their own case? No. Why? Because they're too close to it, too emotionally involved. And yet, when it comes to your own reactions, you investigate yourself every day. You gather the evidence, you replay what happened, you decide who's at fault, you become the judge, jury, and executioner for yourself on the daily, and you will never come out of it well. You never come out of the courtroom having been found innocent. It just doesn't happen. You decide what punishment you deserve, and because you're emotionally inside the experience, you're on the inside looking out, you always judge yourself harder than you would judge anybody else, especially if it was someone you cared about. Let me ask you a second question. The life you currently live right now, right? We don't need to go into details about it all, but the life you live right now, right? If somebody you cared about, the person you look up to most, the person you care about the most, was in your shoes, living your life with your stress and your pressure, and they reacted badly to something, they reacted badly to you, are you going to judge them if you know how bad they've got it? How difficult, how stressful their life is? Are you going to have a go at them for it? No, probably not. You would see their point of view. You would empathize with their struggle. But I'm willing to bet good money that you don't do that with yourself. Because if you did empathize with yourself, the reactions would stay further apart. Staying calmer for longer would be easier organically. You wouldn't need a method. You wouldn't need a system. You wouldn't need a solution because there wouldn't be a problem. You're not the problem, but the way that you judge yourself sometimes might be. That's what I'm saying. And this is where that awareness, that ability to step outside of what's happened and look from the outside in, look objectively at the situation, becomes important. Because awareness is frustrating. At first it is anyway, because it doesn't stop anything. It doesn't magically make you calmer. It doesn't fix your reactions overnight. It just changes what you see. And that's why most people quit. They stop trying to improve. They stop looking for ways of making it better. They just assume this is who they are. Awareness changes what you notice before it changes what you do. You start noticing when you're overloaded. You start noticing when you're short-tempered. You start noticing when you're close to snapping or breaking that barrier of calm that you've built up. And at first, that feels pointless. Like you're not gaining anything from it. Like I say, you're not any closer to calm when you first become aware, but you're not supposed to be. Awareness works like planting a seed. At the start, when you plant it, you water it, you give it sunlight, you make sure it has everything it needs, and you get nothing from it to start with. Nothing changes. But over time, that seed becomes useful. Awareness works the same way, because eventually you stop seeing the reaction after it happened, and you start seeing it while it's happening. Then you start seeing it before it happens, then earlier and earlier, and eventually you're recognizing the start of the build-up towards a reaction long before there's any danger of that reaction happening. So once you see that happening, the question naturally becomes, what do you do with that? What do you do next? Most advice tells you to change your life, or change some part of it, change your mindset, manage your emotions. They'll tell you things like meditate for an hour, journal every day, wake up earlier, buy something, fix everything. They're not realistic for most people. You know that? They certainly weren't realistic for me. I couldn't afford the money or time to do half of the courses I found online, half of the stuff I was being sold. And the worst of it is, because you're being sold it, if you can't afford it or you can't make the time, that idea of getting better is now off limits to you. You can't do that. You can't get better because you can't make the time, or you can't stump up the cash to go and have whatever this thing is. Especially if you're overloaded. That's worse, especially if you're overloaded. And that's why I think small resets matter. Not perfect calm, not total transformation, but tiny interruptions in that pressure build-up that we talked about earlier. It can be as simple as like taking 5 minutes, 5 minutes alone, 5 minutes away. We are not a parent or a colleague or a partner or whatever, a carer, whatever you are. The people around you, your 5 minutes, you're not being whoever you need to be to those people. And you have got 5 minutes. This is something that I will happily help with in the comments. If you sit there thinking, I haven't got that time, mate, let me know in the comments. We'll find it together. I will personally help you find that time. Right? Because I believe everyone should have access to this time. And if you simply can't see where it is yet, that's fine. That's figure outable. And we'll do that together in the comments for free. Okay? Dive in the comments. Let me know. We'll take it into email, I imagine, right? So then you haven't got to go into too much of your life in the comments, or it's public. And completely for free, right? Without any sign up or any of that, I'll help you find your 5 minutes. Straight away. Here's a good example, right? If you're a working parent, which I imagine a lot of people watching this are going to be, right? Or you work at all, whether you have kids or not. If you leave the house to go to your job, and you come back to the house and your job is done, there's 4 5-minute sections there you can have straight away, like comfortably, yeah? Before you walk into work, in fact, no earlier than that, on the drive to work, yeah? Because you don't need to be sat doing nothing. You can be driving to and from. As long as you're taking time for yourself, that's the important bit here, yeah? So on the way to work, before you walk in, on the way home, before you go inside. That's 4 banks of, it doesn't even have to be 5 minutes, it can be 2 minutes. It's times, it's moments that are just for you. You're not being something to somebody, you're being you to you. That's the important bit here. Time isn't, it's just relative. It's having those moments to return to. That's what matters here. I call it a 1% reset. And I call it that because it doesn't change everything overnight. And you're never going to hear me say you'll achieve a perfect calm, or this will happen in 3 weeks, or where, because it's your race, your pace. I heard it said by Sean Cannell, your race, your pace. It's nothing to do with staying calm, but it's completely accurate for this model, for this method. It's your race, your pace. Some people it will take them 3 weeks, some people it will take them 6 months. The fact is, if you get to a more consistent calm, you've done what you wanted to do. You've set out what you wanted to achieve. That's the important bit here. Because you don't need to become a different person. You just need slightly more room between pressure and reacting. This doesn't mean you'll never react again, by the way, this method. This video doesn't mean you'll never hear me say, and this is how you stay calm all the time. Because let's clear something up right now, yeah? And this is the hill I will die on, by the way. Staying calm all the time is impossible. It just is. And if anybody tells you that their method or their book or their course or whatever can help you do that, wrong. They're lying to you. They just are. Nobody is calm all the time. Think of the calmest person you know and ask yourself if they've been calm all their life. If there's like that one story you know about that bath that they got into, like, you know, before you were born, or maybe it's your partner and there's that one story about that time in school, or nobody's calm all the time. So my first thing is, don't chase something that's not obtainable. Don't chase something that's not obtainable, because it's not. And if you aim for the impossible, you will always fail. So don't aim for it. This doesn't mean you'll never react again, this method. This doesn't mean life just suddenly becomes easy. But it does mean something important. It means that reaction we talked about at the start of the video, you're no longer stuck in that. This gives you the opportunity to take even 5 minutes out of that. We've all been there, we're having a really rough day. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to go and take 5 minutes. And we do it, but when we take those 5 minutes, sometimes it's like you'll spend that 5 minutes like replaying why you're angry. What's that achieving, by the way? Because I do that a lot. But it's not achieving anything. You're taking 5 minutes out of what's the situation that's upsetting you to go and work yourself up about it, to come back into the room. Like, that's just pointless. I say that fully aware that I do that myself. You're not trapped inside this forever anymore with this method. And the good thing is it fits into your life as it is. I'm not going to ask you for more time or more money or any of that for this method, for this reset. And the fact that I'm giving it away in the video makes it free anyway. It's free value. It's just as simple as 5 minutes maximum. That's not 5 minutes or you fail. That's not 5 minutes or it's not good enough. It's 5 minutes if it wants to be 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes if you want it to be that. It can be 2 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. It's whatever time you've got available, spare in your day, tucked around the other stuff you do in your life. Let me just leave you with this, okay? You are not broken. You're not failing because you're struggling. You're just carrying more than you realised. And maybe the goal isn't to become perfectly calm. Maybe the goal is to understand yourself well enough to stop fighting yourself every day, to stop blaming yourself every time you react. Because this doesn't have to be who you are anymore. And this doesn't need to be how your story ends. My name has been Daniel Mottram. I can't wait to catch up with you in a future video.